Anyway, the reason we were talking about the Era Aga Bandar was because I was telling you that it's so hard to grasp this and identify it and capsulize it into something that everybody can understand. And I really had the good fortune a few days ago, I think right before Christmas it was, that I actually was able to write my thoughts down on paper in a capsule form about the Era Aga Bandar, where not only it was explained, but it was also understood. Because like I said on the last tape, a lot of times you read this stuff or you hear about this stuff, and just hearing yourself read the words, you say, well, this is contradictory. But the understanding that you haven't come to yet is that it's not contradictory, it's just you haven't read far enough yet, It's like you say, it's like somebody says, okay, I'm going to teach you how to fly a plane, right? And they take you up in the plane, and I would say the person who's saying, I'm going to teach you how to fly the plane is the minister or the holy man or the reverend or the priest or whatever, and he takes you up in the plane and he teaches you everything that he knows, but still you have problems, you don't, you almost crash the plane and it's hard to keep control of it, it's harder still to land it and everything. And you're saying, wow, that was really a hard experience. It was dangerous and risky and perilous and everything, and I thought you said you were going to teach me how to fly this plane. And he says, well, I've taught you everything I know about flying a plane, So you don't look further, and you believe that that's everything there is to know about flying a plane. But still you're saying to yourself, well, if that's everything there is to know about flying a plane, then how come it was so hard to do? And how come, it seemed like I was never in quite control of it? And how come all the basic functions were so hard to do? And how come we almost crashed when I landed and everything, So then you look further than the person who taught you how to fly the plane, and you find that there's a manual about how to fly the plane. And this manual explains all the different things that the person who was teaching you how to fly the plane didn't know. It's basically what the person who taught you how to fly the plane, he knew how to fly the plane, but he just couldn't teach you everything he knew. But this manual elaborated on everything that he was trying to teach you. Well, of course, then you realize that it was contradictory to believe that this person didn't know how to fly this plane. This person didn't know how to articulate to you how to fly the plane. And all the ancient writings that I've been talking about on these tapes, basically that's all they do. They articulate to me all the missing pieces and fragments and unspoken words that the so-called holy man or priest or reverend or religious person has tried to tell me but never could quite put into words. And going with that premise, I'm going to talk about the Era Aga Bandar. Now, the Era Aga Bandar is, of course, the Era is a race from the stars, the Aga is the elders of that race, and the Bandar are the protectors or the guardians of that race. Okay, like I said, I don't feel the need to preface this anymore. Okay, the Era Aga Bandar. Before man made his appearance on this small planet, it was inhabited by a race from the stars called the Ara, because they came from the Ara star. The Ara had come from beyond an undisclosed location to colonize the world, as they had been exiled from their own world after losing a war in the heavens with a counterpart of their race, the Aga. The Ara, or the Old Ones, as they had come to be known, had created what was to become the Aga, to work and cooperate in conjunction with them. You have to remember, when they were beyond our world, they were the Ara race, and there were two facets of that Ara race. There were the Ara Old Ones, but then there were the Ara who had been created by the Old Ones. Now, the Aga were the ones who had been created by the Old Ones, but they weren't the elder race at that time. They were just a faction or a counterpart of the Ara race. However, one of the Ara, Enki, saw that the Ara's rule was unjust and unfair. The origin of the Old Ones embraced the darkness, and everything they created was just an extension of that darkness, and they also believed that all their creations should live in darkness. Well, Enki decided that there had to be a change, that there had to be light, i.e., in the beginning there was only darkness, and then the Lord said, let there be light. He rebelled and challenged the Ancient One's rule. There was an all-encompassing galactical war that lasted for eons. The two counterparts of the Ancient Ones, the Ara, ruled by the Ancient One, and the soon-to-be Aga, ruled by Enki, fought to decide who would rule. Enki's side had one general champion, Marduk, who was Enki's son. Marduk defeated the Ancient One's champion, Tiamat. From Tiamat's flesh he fashioned the earth. This is where the vanquished were exiled. When the old ones lost, they were exiled to earth. This is also where the original creation story was lost. The Ara, or race from the stars, didn't come down to colonize earth, they were exiled here. The Aga, or Enki's newly formed race, had won the heavens and resided there. That's when they were called the Aga, or the Elders, because they had become the dominant counterpart of that race, i.e. because of winning the war in the heavens. Out of bitterness or resentment, the Ara, or the remnant of the Ara, the old ones, started forever calling themselves the old ones or the ancient ones, because they no longer wanted to be associated with the Ara race, because it was just a reminder that not only had they lost their place in the heavens, but they also been proven wrong, and they've been also proven that their rule was unjust and unfair and not going to work. So they didn't want to have anything to do with that reminder, so they even disassociated themselves with their race, the Ara, and started calling themselves the old ones or the ancient ones. And so the Aga, even though they were the counterpart of the Ara race, they became the true Ara race because they embraced their name, the Ara. They were proud to be from the Ara star. They were proud to be the race from the stars. And the elders started calling themselves the Aga because that meant that they were the heads of that race. And the soldiers, or the fighters, or the military of that race became the Bandar, or the guardian protectors. So there was three facets of the original Ara race. There were the Aga, or the elders, and that was ruled by Enki and his son Marduk, in conjunction with some of the other, hierarchy of the Ara. And there were the Aga, who were the elders of that race now. Not necessarily the elders because they were the oldest, but the elders because they were the winners. They were the dominants. They were the dominants of that race. But they didn't dominate that race. That was just the distinction or the designation that they had won that war between them and the old ones. And then there was the Bandar, or the soldiers and the protectors. And that's why when man was created, he had those three facets, He had a race that was all mankind, and then he had the elders of that race that were kind of the rulers or the authorization of that race, and then he had the Bandar, or the soldiers and the protectors, or the guardians, who kind of watched over that and protected and looked over and oversaw the laws and stuff of that race. See? Because remember, it says in the Bible that God made man in his own image. Well, you have to remember the original God was part of the Ara race and part of the Aga designation of that race, and also was the Bandar too, because he had once been a soldier too. In the war, he was a soldier when they fought the war in the heavens. And the reason the ancient ones call themselves that, the ancient ones, is because they no longer want to be associated with this Ara race, because it was nothing but bad memories for them. They never wanted to say, well, we're from the Ara, but then, well, the Ara, they're up in the heavens and they're ruling up there. Why aren't you ruling up there? Well, because we lost the war. So they just didn't want to even be associated with it anymore. Dispossessed, if you want to call it that. It's like Philip Nolan, The Man Without a Country, where he says, I hope that I shall never hear or see the name United States again.